or Dale Preston, like the super roadies.
Oh yeah. Hold on, I'm just gonna jump in. If you're talking about Wayne's World, there is nothing more important. But I'm gonna start this shit show. That's not it. That's not it. That's it. Hi, it's Sunday morning, and welcome to the Art of Rock, and we're going to talk about rock and roll and making art and making all sorts of different forms of art. Randall, welcome. Adam, welcome. And we're going to be talking about writer's block today, and probably vocal techniques, or techniquois, if you're classy, unlike any of us. But first we're going to do some public service announcements, some PSAs. Oh my god. Okay, firstly and foremostly, join us every Sunday here on this channel. Oh my beautiful humans. Boom. And that's on Angelspit's Twitch. Go like Angelspit's Twitch. There's so much madness going on Angelspit's Twitch. It's like the mad channel of Twitch. This mayhem was brought to you by Angelspit's Patreon, several of which amazing supporters are here with me today. I will keep you going, you will keep me going, we keep each other's going. And obviously, it's just bloody rock and roll. Bratton Shots, that's Julius. Julius, who is right below me, has got a new video out. You need to see it. It's bloody great. So go and click on that goddamn thing and watch it and share it. On other news, Angelspit has a new single out. The single is called Don't Know Zero. It has a B-side on it, which is Love That Drug. And that Love That Drug is not on the new album, which is called Diesel Priest. Don't Know Zero will be. And it's also escorted by 9 remixes. 9 remixes. It was only supposed to be like 3 remixes, but then I heard all of these other people and I went, God damn it, I have to put them on there. Go grab that shit on Bandcamp now, because it will really soil your panties. And panty soiling is what it's all about. Talking about other things that will soil your panties. Boom! There is a insane killer track list going around. It's like the murder bees for your ears, or murder hornets for your ears. And it's made up of bands here. And we've made a Spotify playlist, and I want you to go there. And we're all pimping that. We're pimping that, aren't we? Yes, we are. And this is a way for you to hear more amazing new music. And another piece of amazing new music is Els and the Cult has finally dropped their EP with a new album, with a new video, and it's bloody awesome. Go check that shit out. And if you want to watch people get drunk and fall over, I'm doing a competition for cocktails. Yes. I want you to design me an Angelspit themed cocktail. And we're going to actually launch that live. We're going to make the winning cocktails at my friend's Speakeasy in LA. And it's going to be messy. So send them in, because this is a fun thing. We're doing a fun for the fuck of it thing, and you can watch this stream on Twitch, and it will be horribly messy, because messy is where it's all about. And speaking of messy and non-stop, if you like it messy and non-stop and dark and terrifying and beautiful, MTV TV is for you. So jump on MTV, and after we've done all of this, we're going to stream on over to MTV TV. If you're in a band and you want your stuff played, click that link, that Gmail, and they will play your stuff. Just email them, have a chat to them, and they'll take care of them. 2 of the amazing people from MTV TV are here. In fact, we are all MTV TV, all of us. And also, Space Couch is in 3 hours' time as well, so we're going to do that. Now, everyone, your mics are live. A question has come to my ears about writer's block and how to overcome writer's block. Julius, I'm going to throw this back to you now. I want you to expand on that. And expand about how you're feeling as a person, and what's going on with your writer's block. Because remember, whatever you say, there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are going to go, yeah, man, I so fucking get that. Hit me.
I honestly hope so. Yes, as you might have guessed, I am having a severe case of writer's block right now, like every one of us has from time to time. My personal situation is that my job is being very stressful right now, and I'm receiving lots of negative energy from people. And yeah, that strikes on my creative juices as well. And as soon as I sit down on my DAW and try to write something or try to um, advance on my songs, I just don't like anything I do. It's like, nah,
All right.
just let it be, you know? And I just don't know how to get out of this. Maybe you got tips or stories to share for me.
Honey bunny, do I ever have fucking tips? Okay, Adam, sorry I'm first. So what I want you to do is I want you to write down the way you are feeling. Don't write it on, I mean, like if you want to write it in an iPad or something removable, do it. But even better is go and buy yourself a book, an empty book, like a moleskin, or a book that is empty, like a sketchbook. Get yourself a nice pen. Like I like those fine point felt pens. You might like a ballpoint pen. You might like a pencil, whatever it is. That's exactly like that one. Thank you, Adam. Step one is you are going to make the process of this fun. Step one. Step two, you're going to keep away from your door for as long as you can because computers suck the energy out of you. That's what they do. They suck away your life force, and when you have no more life force to give, it's just going to suck you dry. Don't go there. You are going to write down the way you feel. You are going to, if people are pissing you off at work, you are going to write poems for that person. And you are going to make them as dark and as fucked up as you possibly want. You are going to let out your grief. And the trick is, if you can, for me, go on a walk to a cafe. Sit in that cafe for an hour and write. And if you can, do it once or twice a week. If you're comfortable, safe, have the availability to do that. If not, go for a walk, find yourself a park, sit in the park and write. Just get it out, because you also need physical exercise. Take this book with you everywhere you go except work, because you don't want people finding it. Or maybe not, I don't know. Secondly is you have a bass guitar, don't you? You have a guitar? Right. What I want you to do is when you make music and when you create everything, do it on that bass guitar. Take it somewhere else, into another room, or don't look at a computer. You've got a window there. Sit at the window and stare out the window. Put a little tiny table at that, and sit your notepad down there with your bass guitar. Come up with your melody lines, come up with your riffs, come up with everything on that bass guitar. Write it all down. Because depression and all of these things and grief and anger are really difficult things because they block you. Absolutely block you. And the only thing you can do is sit down and notate those things and get it out of you. Yeah, sure, you're using this as musical fuel, but you're also using this to help you work your way through it. That's what I think. Do you want to reply to that before I throw it to Adam?
No.
Okay. Awesome. Adam, go. Short.
Okay, couple of things. First of all, if you're working a regular day job kind of job and you have those kind of responsibilities, it makes it really, really hard to get yourself into the creative mind space and really let yourself dip into the crazy, right? And so I think Carl's given you some good advices on how to get going. You need to block yourself out the space to do it. No interruptions, as Carl says, get away from the computer, but I'm going to say it's more about getting away from the social media, getting away from the email, getting away from all the things that are going to interrupt your creative process, which is literally everything. The hardest thing about getting started on anything, and I give this advice all the time, the most frightening thing is a blank sheet of paper to any artist. And all you can do is just make a fucking mark on it. Screw that paper up. You can paint over it later. It doesn't matter. Just start doing something, anything. If you're burned out on making music, make something else. Draw a picture of a flower in your backyard, paint something, make some fucking jewelry. Do something else that's creative, because everything that you do that's creative layers up your skill sets, right? And so, you know, and even then, you know, not for nothing, the computer, sorry, Carl, the computer can be really useful to open your creativity too, if you stay away from the things that are going to distract you, right? If you use the tools, the computer tools these days are amazing, the shit we can do, you know, like unimaginable 30, 40 years ago, what we can do now. With these machines. So the machine itself can be, if you treat the computer like you treat your instruments, or like you treat your canvas and your palette, then it's okay. It's really getting rid of all those other distractions that matter. And like I said, most importantly, just make a mark on the canvas. Wipe your bloody butt on it and put a brown streak on the piece of paper, because then you have destroyed that clean piece of paper, and nothing else matters after that. You can only improve it.
Fantastic, thank you. Grim, what you got?
I would definitely recommend spider webbing. That's kind of the easiest way I can describe it. So if you got an idea that you like, don't torture yourself by being like, this is the start, this is the middle, this is the end. I would just be like, I like this idea and I'm going to write it. And even if it's hacky, and even if it's like a rhyme scheme, at least you get them down and you get those little chunks and segments instead of trying to do the top to bottom thing. You know what I mean? And eventually you could break up those A's and throw stuff in the middle, you know. Well, I literally, when I'm writing stuff for like Grimm or Wicked Stories, I will write them in little piecework, but I've literally like cut them out with scissors and rearranged the order and like stapled them back together so it looks like a Frankenstein creation or like or ransom note. But eventually, all of those things get spider webbed together to one big idea. So yeah, you could just group and then tie them all together instead of, like I said, torturing yourself with just the process.
Thank you. That's great. I don't see any. I'm just going to jump in as well. It's really curious how there's something going on, and this might just be me, but I don't think it is, that we are not allowing ourselves time to play anymore. We're not going, okay, well, I'm going to do that idea in search of the crazy, because you got it. That crazy is mission critical. That creep. You got to find that creep. By taking words, cutting them up, and sticking them back onto a piece of paper. I have tremendous trouble allowing myself time to play. And the whole idea of coming up with new... Research Brian Eno. If you want to watch shit on YouTube, Brian Eno. Well, you work at a library. Go find stuff about Brian Eno. And that is going to, and also Alejandro Jodorowsky, who did the Dune thing. I mean, that guy heals.
I watched a documentary. It was awesome.
Oh, which one? On Dune?
And Dune, yes.
Watch Holy Mountain, El Topo, Sancta Sangria. Watch his movies. They're madness. They're brilliant madness. But Holy Mountain is one of the most brilliant movies ever made. Anyway, and literally it is. Here's Alex. Hold on a minute. Allow yourself to have the time to find that crazy. Because our society doesn't want you to be crazy anymore. Our society wants you to behave in what you think, in what you write, in what you say on social media. You have to behave now. We've all become thought police. Welcome, Alex. And this is killing creativity. This is killing the ability to say, to present ideas in a fashion that is rock and roll. Rock and roll is about offending. You have to try and offend yourself. you have nothing to lose except awesome opportunity and awesome ideas. Aaron, I'm just going to throw to you now.
Yeah, also in that vein, I would say, like, when it comes to writer's block, and you said that, you know, people making you angry, I would try to channel that to like one word descriptors or a few descriptors about that person. You know, what don't you like about that person? They're either a micromanager, or they're aggressive, or they're passive aggressive, or. But I think if you write all that down and you steer that into a thought pattern about music and you name them a character, that could be really badass. You know what I mean? Like you could be singing about a character that's, you know, the premise is like they're a king, and then you name all of the shitty things about them being a king, you know, or if they're a liar and you name all the things about them being a liar. Maybe that's constructive, but I would find something in that, because that's something I do for Grimm. If there's some things that I really, really don't like, or things that agitate me, I'll just ball them all together and make a character out of it. And then it channels through the other Reapers, and they're like, I really fucking hate that guy, and let me tell you why. And it turns constructive. It turns comical. So yeah, fiction kind of based on life. So.
I love that. Drake, go.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've struggled with. You know, knock on wood, it hasn't happened in some time, but for me, getting out and walking, you know, getting some physical exercise, making sure I'm eating, you know, more practically speaking, when I'm sitting down, if something isn't working, I'll try something completely different. I'll go online and see what other people are doing, or explore new sounds. Occasionally, if I'm really desperate in my environment, I can trigger random kind of patterns within my hardware. And that can spark ideas, and I can kind of, you know, if I light on something that's really resonating with me, I can take that and refine it, and then build out a song either forward or backward from that point. I find that can be really helpful. Yeah, and if somebody is really pissing me off, you know, in particular in my life, I'll turn that into a song, you know, channel that into the creative work, because you know, that's kind of what's on my mind and inspiring me and driving me at the moment, if I can't clear it, you know, from my space.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's really interesting, Julius, that you work in a place of knowledge. It's like this kingdom of knowledge.
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Not at the moment.
All right.
I've been pulled off my workplace, and I'm currently working for the health office of my district.
Right. Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work for health. So,
What?
Yeah, I used to work in the Department of Health.
Oh, you? Okay.
Wow. Here's something interesting about my time in Department of Health. This sort of has to do with it, is that, so I went from working for Microsoft game management, game development, to EA Sports game development. And now they were the sort of environments where we're going to have a meeting at 9 a.m., and we're going to come up with a post, and by 12 o'clock it's going to be live and 1 million people are going to read it. To working for the Department of Health, which is public servants, which is, oh my God. But I decided to do it because I was tired of making people rich. I wanted to help. And it was, we
Exactly.
Yeah, we did this thing. We increased the access to healthcare for about 2 million people in the Sydney area, like drastically increased it. And it was really good. Took 5 years. I learnt so much. I learnt about databases. I learned management, because like I can manage musicians and I can manage artists, and the trick is you punch them, you threaten them, and you punch them. But then I learned about working for public servants, and public servants are angry, bitchy, really frustrated little human beings in their little suits who hate their life, and they want to make your life fucking shit. And the meetings, dude, half a fucking nurse grenade. Because I left, when I left the public health, I did Angelspit full time, because I just went, I'm going to kill myself, like literally. The lyrics were, I'd sit in meetings and I would write lyrics. And I would purposely try to make, because I couldn't get fired. I'd work myself into this position where, you can't get fired as a public servant in Australia. Trust me, I tried. And you can't get... And I was indispensable, because I came with this this real corporate IT management skills of we are going to get this shit done. And every meeting, every single thing, I would go out of my way to say, you're wasting money, you're supposed to be a public servant, and you are wasting, this is a waste of thing when fucking people need this money for public health. But I am a cunt, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got so many fucking marks on my name, like, and eventually I just said, I'm done, this is just not fun anymore. But that doesn't matter. Great lyrics. My God, man, I've my heart rate's gone up just remembering that shit. Great lyrics. There's so much still that you can learn from that, as you know, like the courses you can do and all that sort of shit for self-betterment and stuff. But just write lyrics about these people and write fucking your anger. The thing is that when you are in the depths of angry fucking fire that comes from you, and you wonder why all of my lyrics are about hating the corporate environment. When you're in the depths of that frustration, you can either scream or shut down. And everyone shuts down because you can't scream. You can, because you've got a piece of paper and a bass guitar. And then you can do more of those fucking videos that you did. It was great. It was offensive. It was lovely. It was cutting the edge for me. That you've got to turn that fucking frustration into anger. And what's interesting, I'm on a rant now, so tell me to shut up, is that when I did all this shit, it was early 2000s. And in the 2000s, it was okay to be angry. It was okay to do all this stuff and fuck the government and da-da-da-da. You can't do that now. There was no such thing as the political correctness is nowhere near as oppressive and Stasi as it is now. Now, we are so fucking edited. We are so fucking shut down that, you know, for example, I'm writing my Kickstarter now for the new album, and I'm going through it, and I can't say that, I can't say that, I'm not allowed to say that, I'm not allowed to say all of this shit. But everyone's feeling it, but I can't say it. And the point is that if I can't fucking say it in this situation, I'll say it in my lyrics. Because in my lyrics, I say some pretty fucking dark shit. And I know a lot of us do. Don't fucking stop that. So, it sounds to me like you're sitting on this well of fire. You just got to start letting it out a little by a little and notating the beautiful colors that come out of it. Yeah. Does anybody else want to say anything about this situation?
Yes, I do.
Please.
Thank you for the excellent advice, Carl, Adam, Aaron, and Drake. Yes, when it comes to writing lyrics, I got no problem whatsoever because, as you just said, Carl, it's being in this kind of situation, it's like sitting on this fiery well, and that's perfectly fine. It's more the music and the instrumentals I struggle with. But maybe you got tips on this specifically, but there's another aspect that kind of gets me blocked. But I'm not sure if I want to talk about this on camera.
Do you want me to mute it?
So maybe we can do it later. Also,
okay, we'll do it later. Importantly, let's do it later. We are the fucking team, so let's talk about that later.
All right, thank you.
Please remind me. I'm going to throw it to Grim, then to Randall, then to Alex. Grim, what you got?
I was going to say, maybe in the vein of, I guess, instrumental writer's block, maybe just, start crafting just to craft it. But if you get stuck on, man, I really got to do this instrumental for XYZ lyrics, maybe just put a pin in it and just say, hey, I'm just going to bang out this instrumental and I'm going to do whatever it feels like. And maybe I'm going to chuck it in a folder and just label it as like dread or misery or anger or joy or elation. You know what I mean? And maybe that's weird, but I just think it'd be really constructive to just say, I'm going to work on it for the sake of it. But then I could table that. And if it doesn't have a title, then that's fine. But it's a general feeling. And then eventually, if that taps into the lyrics, then I have a fuck yeah folder that I can go to and I can pull that. You know what I mean? Because I think if you're just pouring and pouring and pouring just to get it to fit that one song or that block of lyrics, I think you start to drive yourself mad. I don't name any Grimm instrumentals until they're done, as weird as that is. I don't think, oh man, I need this for like the Abyss, or I need this for this particular part of like Hades. I just start making a lot of dreadful shit. And then toward the end, I go, that's what that is. That's what that belongs to. And then I could put a name on it. So that's just my thought on that.
Awesome. Randall, I'm going to throw it to you in 1 second, but I will quickly say, Julius, if you're working in public health right now in this time, you're a fucking hero. And we all fucking agree with that. Even if it's administration, you're doing the back end.
I needed to hear this. Thank you.
You are a fucking hero. Randall, good to see your face. What you got?
I know it's been a while. The whole thing of just musical writer's block, I'm terrible at lyrics. That's always a problem. But if it's music and stuff, my thing that I do is, if I'm stuck, I would just make a bunch of drum loops for no reason whatsoever. Or just sit down and do sound design. Just make crazy noises. Usually those crazy noises turn into, I wonder what will happen if I do this. And I play a little melody, and sometimes it's cool. Most of the time it's not. But if you get those cool little pieces, like he was just saying, just stick them in a folder somewhere. Everything I write, everything that I do comes out of multiple different like projects. Like I'll be working on something and then it's like, oh, I sort of remember I had something that might fit here. So I'll go find it. And if I have to change the key or, change the tempo, move it around, do whatever I got to do to make it stick together, then I do that. But yeah, just sound design, make crazy noises and see what happens. Like, I don't worry so much about what the song's going to sound like when it's done, because that's for later. I just throw crap at it, just make weird noises. Stuff will eventually fall together, and if it doesn't, make other weird noises.
Brilliant. Thank you, Randall. Hold on. Eric, I want to go after you, like Drake, then Alex and Eric. Eric, can you remind me, I want to talk about, well, everybody remind me that I want to talk about making a timetable. That doesn't matter. Drake, what do you got?
For me, I'm like a process and scheduling type person. I'm not sure if this will be helpful to you, but basically I block out my time. So I have times during the week where I have specifically allocated times that I'm going to be doing something creative. And because I do that consistently, I think my mind gets into the set that, okay, now's creative time. So I kind of just slip into it. And the other thing I wanted to share is that whatever comes out of those sessions, I render them down and I listen to them in the car. Whether I'm loving it or not, I'm listening to it over and over again in between my sessions, and that also, can spark ideas of where I want to take it next, and definitely what I want to cut when I come back to it. So.
That's brilliant. Thank you, man. Alex.
Yes, first of all, sorry to emulate there were elections and the queue was very long. I hope I understood the question correctly, that it's about writer's block when you're writing instrumentals.
Writing whatever, but go.
Yeah, I think the most, I think you can start to see everything as a riddle. So like, if it's like a Sudoku or something like that, you can think about it that way, and I think that helps me, like what would be the logical way to connect these ideas or to go from here. And when it comes to the beginning, I usually just slam down some notes and write from that if I don't have anything to start with.
Brilliant. Thanks, man. Throwing shit at canvas. Eric.
Hello. This has all been really excellent advice so far. I like Julius. I wish I had more advice, but this has been awesome because I struggle with this a lot too. And everybody's different and they have their own methods. but what Rando was saying kind of resonated with me a lot. Not necessarily where I would just make drum beats or loops. Actually, Aaron said it too. I have folders of like I probably have like 1,000 beats in my computer that I haven't touched or do anything with, and if I get stuck with something, I'll just randomly go, and like Aaron too, I don't have anything named, or it's like I'll put like the key it's in 001, 002, and it's just random nonsense. And I'll just go through that and listen to these beats and instrumentals that I have until something I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And I'll open that up and I'll just start working on like that song. Hopefully it goes somewhere. That's my method for it. I also like what Carl said and Adam mentioned, going out to parks or nature. I'm a heathen pagan, so nature resonates with me very much. So I like to get out in nature, hug a tree, as the hippies do. It grounds yourself. Take your shoes off. Get that earth energy. Get that going through you, and let the universe enter you. That always works for me too, and it does ground you. There's something with the earth energy, and everything's vibrations. Music's vibration, the earth's vibration, the universe. Everything is particles that vibrate, so everything is connected. So if you get that into you, that I just find it goes like from nature through me into like my creativity, and I can bring those beats up that I have that I've never done anything with, and maybe start working on something new.
Brilliant. Thank you, Eric. I'm going to jump in. Rob, I'm loving your comments, by the way. You should fucking say something. But just before you do, firstly, I want to just pick up on what Eric said about hug a tree. Take your shoes off and hug a tree. There are reasons for hugging a tree, and there are reasons it feels so amazing, because there is evidence that hugging a tree, you are electrically grounding yourself, and as we walk around in our rubber shoes and everything else, we build up a whole bunch of static electricity and dormant electricity, and we don't need that in our great big electrochemical fleshy things that we walk around in. Hugging a tree will suck it out of you, and if you hug a tree, you'll feel it. And connecting with nature is a really, really fantastic thing. And I had this really amazing understanding this week about bacteria, but that doesn't matter. I'll tell you later. Fascinating shit. So make a timetable as well, and say on Monday, like whenever your spare times are of when I am trying to make music, slot them in, because if the inspiration isn't there, just force it. Slot them in. Monday afternoon, I am going to create a new sound. Tuesday afternoon, I am going to work on lyrics. I'm going to sit at my pen and I'm going to scream those lyrics. Wednesday, I'm going to start formulating them into an idea, and by Thursday or Friday or something, I am going to have lyrics, a set of words that would look cool on a t-shirt. Boom. Looks cool on a t-shirt. A very, very small sentence, which is your chorus. That's your damn hook. It will look good on a t-shirt, and it might be, I don't know, whatever the fuck. And then from that concept, once you have that t-shirt, verses will melt out, music will melt out, and feelings will melt out. Grim, I see your hand. Rob, did you want to jump in with anything?
Everyone's saying the right stuff, eh? It's I'm not a big composer, but I get inspiration from different sources, and I'm not regimented. I don't have a timetable. It's usually in the moment that I collect good ideas, and having that notepad or that recorder to capture those ideas is imperative, because they're a fleeting. It's difficult to capture great ideas, so you always have to have the right tools with you, no matter where you are, whether it's in a concrete jungle working, a slave job under the man, or it's out in the woods. So I find experimentation with music always helps. I always find concept and lyrics always help. They're completely different approaches, but they both work. That's all.
Yeah, thanks, man. Aaron, hit me with your grim stick.
So what I was also thinking too, I think one of the biggest hindrances when it comes to like writer's block is just landing on that idea that that's not my sound, quote unquote, you know? Like you get to a point where you're like, okay, doing this, and all of a sudden you add something to the sequence and you go, that's not my sound. And I think people get to the point where they're jamming a stick in the bike spokes. You know what I mean? You're it's self-inflicted madness. But I think if you start adopting, fuck it, maybe that's a sound. Maybe that's a bridge, you know, that's a bridge from my sound to something else, or I could loop it back, or you could do a side project. I always think about the stark contrast between gothsicles and gasoline. Gothsicles is like whack-a-mole, I'm just gonna do whatever, you know, theme songs. But gasoline is holy shit. It's raw, visceral, often angry energy, but I think it's so cool because the whole that's not my sound thing can lead to something else if you just kind of compartmentalize it. You know what I mean? But don't let that be a hindrance to what you're doing. Just be like, fuck it, that may not be my sound right now, but I'm gonna table that and I'm gonna put it in a folder. Or I'm going to find a way to loop it back to it. But I think that usually causes a lot more harm than good when you land on that solo idea, you know? So just a thought. Dude,
it's all about freeing your mind, isn't it? All of this shit is just free your fucking mind. And remember, Space Couch is on in about 2.5 hours. And Brian is interviewing my favorite wrestler, Ovis, today, and he's bloody awesome. Drake.
Echoing what some of us have already mentioned, you know, like having a library of stuff, you know, maybe didn't work in the past. I've got 15 years of stuff that I've squirreled away. Should I ever reach that point where I need to go back and look? And we've all got one of these fucking smartphone devices. There's two things on here that helps me tremendously in preparing for that day where I have writer's block. That's a notepad. You know, I'll be out somewhere and, you know, lyrical idea will come to me. I note it down immediately. I've got a huge library of, you know, lyric ideas here to draw upon. And the other thing is the voice recorder app. I've got a voice recorder app here that I can, you know, record ideas on the spot, or I might be somewhere and hear like a really fucking cool sound and I just want to capture that, you know, that might be useful. I remember I was living in Toronto and the subway system, there used to be this really haunting sound come from down the tunnels. And I was hell-bent to capture that sound, and I never did. But it was unreal. Like, I've never heard anything like it. And you know, had I captured that, it would have been something. But I learned from that, and I carry that voice recorder around with me now everywhere I go. So,
thank you. Can I jump in on that? Sound safaris. This could even be around your fucking neighborhood. Sound safaris are the most wonderful, inspiring thing. That you go for a walk and you pick up a piece of trash off the side of the road, and you turn it into an instrument. You bash the shit out of it. You pluck it. You get a tuning fork, sit it on it. It forces you to approach something completely different. And if you make a whole song based on a piece of metal or a piece of something, it sort of makes sense because remember that thing's got a base, fundamental, resonating frequency. And if you make a whole bunch of sounds and distort it from that thing, all of those things have that base resonating frequency. So before you know it, it can be as musical as you want or not, because it's all got that drone all the way through. It's all derived on the same drone because derived on the same piece of wood or the same piece of metal, which blows my fucking mind. We are welcome to keep going down this or constantly hitting this because this is one of the biggest things. By the way, welcome Tanner. Writer's block is a huge one. If I'd like to talk about actually I really want to talk about distortion pedals, but I want to talk a little bit about vocals if we want. Maybe, maybe. It's really funny that electronic music, I mean, like, you know, it's great. It's so fucking great, isn't it? Of course it is. It's great. And by the way, Brian, thank you very much for your comments on YouTube. I'm reading them. They're bloody great. Anyway, so it's funny how as electronic-based musicians we spend a lot of money on our guitars and our pedals and on our synthesizers and all that shit, but not on our voices. And very few people, once they go out, I'm going to spend X on a really decent effects unit for my voice. It's got a compressor built into it, an EQ built into it, and a couple of delays and maybe a bit of distortion and a bit of reverb and a bit of chorus. So I'm going to plug myself and a mic, a 58. You can buy a 58 for $200. I'm going to plug my fucking my mic into that, and it's going to go to the front of house, and every single time it's going to sound exactly like the way I want it to sound like. Also, in-ear monitors. My God. Like, sure, it could be $200 to $500 or more, but it's one of the best fucking investments you're gonna make, because it's a lower, the volume is lower. You can hear yourself. You know how you play a gig and you fuck it because the sound guy or person is an idiot and they fuck your sound up, and you can't really expect them to get your sound right because they've never heard you before. If you have in-ear monitors, you have total fucking control, and you will never have a bad gig again. They're not gonna. It drops the volumes on the stage, because instead of having your voice spewing back through a pair of monitors, it's going into your ears, so there's less feedback. All this stuff. It's bloody great. I mean, so far we've talked about an investment of $500, really $1,000. But all of us spend $1,000 all the fucking time on synthesizers and shit. So if you're going out to play, you remember when we used to go and play? Isn't that fun? It'll happen again soon, maybe. Just fucking do it. And having a pre-arranged thing for your vocals, an actual dedicated effects unit for your voice, just fucking do it. Rob?
Yeah, well, that's good topic, Carl. It's a bit tricky too, because when I do mixes and that for amateurs, they're always asking me technical questions about how to set up their stuff at home to make a nice clean recording so I can actually do something with it. And that's on the assumption that I'm going to take a clean, dry signal and process it in a DAW with some fancy software plugins. And that's fun and all good. But the reality is that if you're a vocalist, and maybe a vocalist and a guitarist or something like that, you want to hear the end state as you sing and play, because that creates the vibe and that sets the scene, and it once you get to that third perfect take, really. If you're doing it all dry, you may not get in the mood. And so sometimes out gear, if it's set up correctly, is going to be really helpful for those types of musicians, because they're going to get exactly the right sound that they want, and then you need to record both channels. You need to take the dry and the outboard strip. So ignoring the DAW based stuff, because there's tons of tools out there for that. I've got a little Mackie Onyx board that I plug my condenser mic in and my SM58 into, and then I would go to a Joe Meek 3Q, which is a little tiny desktop box that has inline compressor, preamp, and the Meek equalizer. It's like a compressor set at 5:1. It's a really good quality box. You can get those secondhand, pretty inexpensive. If you want top end, I would recommend the Helicon Voice Live 3 Extreme. That thing is amazing and sensational. It's really good for doing harmonies, double ups. It's got so much stuff. You can even do a Barry White with that as an effect. It's just incredible. It is very expensive. They're over $1,000, but I picked one up for $500 on Facebook Marketplace, and it's in perfect condition. Watch out for the cheaper versions of the Helicons, because they have a lot of hum. And I've got one mate who's struggling with that at the moment with noise. And that's going to be your nemesis for outboard hardware, is making sure you get rid of that harm and use power conditioners and filters. But yeah, that's it from me.
Brilliant advice, man. Hold on, Alex, I want to throw to you in a minute. I just want to say, yeah, you know, if you want to play a character, because that's what you're doing when you're laying it down, put on the costume, put on the makeup, get the voice. Do it. It's good fun. Alex.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have any recommendations if you just want a compressor, a de-esser, and an EQ, and not maybe a whole voice processor?
You should see our last section where we talked about exclusively compressors.
I mean, like a whole channel strip, if there is something like that.
The Joe Meek has all three in one, and it's quite inexpensive. It's a half rack desktop box that's got preamp for both condenser and, you know, with Phantom, without Phantom. It's got the EQ specifically for voice EQing, low frequency, mid and highs, and it's got an output gain control as well. That's a really good product, good quality. They also have a valve system as well, which gets a little bit more pricey. But the DBX range are great as well, just for vocals. Or Alesis. Good stuff.
Yeah. And I'll also throw in the Helicon, I think it's called the VoiceWorks or something. It's an older one, and there's a bunch of presets on them that are fucking great, and you can control them via MIDI. You can program them, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass, and they have a settle. The older ones have usually got software to go with them because they got USB connected to them. But when you have a like the Joe Meek sounds bloody great, plug it in, strong voice no matter what. But you might also want to. I mean, like if you got a Joe Meek or something, you might then get something like an Alesis Quadraverb. And then you're using MIDI to say, well, based on the fundamental sound of that Joe Meek, because it's then going to output a voice that sounds bloody great, I'm going to put some reverb on it, and I'm going to put a bit of chorus on it, or a delay and a chorus, or da-da-da-da-da-da. But the Helicon stuff's also got, like, pitch shifting and the cloning. And
yeah, the Helicon's cool, because you can go to your keyboard and create harmonies with chords on the keyboard. And to Carl's point, the Joe Meek is good on its own as a compressor to give like a dark colorization, but it doesn't do anything like delay or chorus. You know, you want an effects unit as well, either in the box or out of the box.
And then if you got something that's controlled by MIDI, for example, the Helicon stuff, when you do live and you do with your laptop, you'll be sending a MIDI channel to the Helicon, and not only is it saying, here, change it to this sound for this song, or for the chorus, change this. It's also going to say, here are the notes, the MIDI notes, that I want that chorus to come up around you while you're singing. And you can get some quite good vocoder-esque things, but the harmonizing on those things is madness. Like the one I've got, I get 8 voices. Oh, so that's 8 harmonizing voices, so I can play in an 8-note MIDI thing, and I get 8 Carls, which is kind of terrifying when you think about it. But then it also does cloning, and it can get my voice and split it into another 8, and either make one solid demon or massiveness. They're crazy. That's all I got. Alex, I love your wisdom. Alex, I love your wisdom.
Can you put the names of the boxes in the chat also? Because I didn't catch that.
Yeah, we can add those.
Voice Live. Julius, hit me with your rhythm stick.
Alex, are you exclusively looking for analog recommendations or also software ones?
Mostly hardware unit. It could be digital, but something that could be slammed into a rack if I were to play live at some point.
Okay, then I'm out.
I know the software is really good. I have some that I got for free, and it's like perfect, but I sometimes just want something I can just grab and rearrange and whatever.
Fantastic. Drake?
Yeah, this is. I tried out a lot of different vocal processors, and I kind of I wanted to settle on something that I could record with, but then use in a live situation and sort of get as close as possible to sounding like the recording. This is the one that I settled on. It's a Boss, if you're into stomp boxes, the VE20, and it does a lot of, what folks have been talking about so far. It's a decent little box. It's not like great. I'm not completely blown away, but it's like good enough. So yeah, you can create your own patches and you can control it through the foot pedals. You can cycle through the different things. It'd be really nice if it was, you could trigger it by MIDI and, have that effect change during the chorus kind of thing and then come back. So it's, something else you have to think about during your performance and, stomping on the pedals. But I'm mostly listening here because that's great information and it's something that I still need to refine in my own process. So.
Awesomeness. I also love the I love doing stuff via hardware gear. Just because there's just something about it. There's I don't know why. There's just something about it. There's something that I really enjoy. The unexpected things that happen. The unexpected. Oh wow, my volume is way too loud, but that's a cool distortion. For example, if I can, we can keep talking about this, or I could. Can I ask? Because there's some guitarists here. I want to ask you guys about distortion pedals. I want to ask you about distortion pedals. That's my new song called I Want to Ask You About Distortion Pedals. Specifically, how to use a synthesizer with them. I mean, if you want to talk about guitars, sure. But I want to know about synth out, distortion pedal in. Everyone's getting exciting. I can see the hands going up. Drake, I can see your hand up. And you've got a box. Drake's got a box
here.
Have you heard of the box?
Have you heard of these game changer pedals?
No.
I've got the plasma pedal here. And
oh yeah,
it's a high voltage distortion unit. And you can run your drum machine, your synthesizer, whatever you want through it. It's not strictly for guitar. Well, it sounds amazing, whatever you put through this thing. And, you can dial in the low frequencies and the high frequencies. And it's basically, it's just sending it through this high voltage. And you can actually, I wish I could plug it in quickly here and show you, but you can actually see on the voltage meter here how it's affecting the signal. And it's just nasty.
So
it's
what do you,
really crunchy.
What do you do? What do you do with it? How do you fuck with it? I want to know how you fuck with it.
Yeah. So what I've
and you go straight in, you
DI
DI in, you don't go into an amp.
Well, my drum machine here, the Analog Rhythm, I'm going into a little mini Mackie mixer here, and I've got this in a auxiliary loop. So basically, I can bring it in when I want to, and I control the amount of voltage directly from the unit. So I can kind of punch it in and out from the mixer. And it's also got, a little stomp here. You could put it on the ground and stomp it in too. But yeah, because I want to use it sometimes, but not all the time. But yeah, I've been using it as an auxiliary send on the mixer, basically.
Does it have any, what are the inputs besides in and out? Does it have like control voltage or anything like that?
Well, you've got a voltage control here on the front.
But what about on the back?
Not MIDI controllable. No, there's no MIDI.
But no. Does it have like a voltage input? So does it have an expression pedal?
Well, like a
input?
CV, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm loving this thing anyway. Thank you.
Game changer audio.
Game changer audio.
Watch videos. It's pretty amazing.
Put it in there. Alex, thank you, Drake. Oh, the hands are coming up.
So there's a difference between what I do and what is the best thing to do. What I do is just put the gain on the pedal on the lowest, and then try to put the volume on the synth slightly up until I have the right distortion. Because my theory is that this way I get the least noise. I don't know if it's true, but I think theoretically it should be. But there's also like this DI box by, I think, radial engineering. And it's specifically so you can go down from line level to instrument level and back. But it's quite expensive.
Okay, can I throw you a piece of advice? Firstly, you are correct. The difference, the input of most guitar pedals are looking for minus 20 dB. And the line level out from most synthesizers is about 0 dB, whereas modular is about plus 30. So you have to drop it, and with a lot of synthesizers, you can drop it 20 dB quite easily by clocking down the volume internally inside it. But the problem you've got there is then that starts disappearing into the noise floor. But the thing to remember with a lot of distortion pedals and a lot of old school shit is that noise is your friend, or you can make it your friend. That if you drive... What pedal were you talking about, by the way?
I have two. One is this I bought as a teenager, which is like for...
What is it?
It's the Ibanez SH7 Seventh Heaven distortion pedal, which was made for 7-string guitars, and guitar magazines really hated it back then, but it works really great for synthesizers because it's more full range than typical guitar pedals. I also have this one, which is like multiple pedals in one. It's called an Electron Analog Drive, and I bought it on sale because no one wanted to buy it.
Excellent.
But I think this one works better with drums than with synth, in my opinion, but it's just my opinion.
Alright, cool. Because the thing about a distortion pedal as well that I've been learning, and Vince, I'm going to throw this to you very... There it is. I'm going to throw this like after... Because I want to hear from you because you're a guitar guy, but we'll get to you. My understanding is that when you overdrive the input on most pedals, it sounds like crap because of the transistors. I could be wrong. I'm going to shut up right now. If you want to add anything else... No, okay, Julius, hit me with your rhythm stick.
I wanted to take the chance and make certain people in this Zoom hate me for showing off my... I'm sorry.
That's a Behringer, it's not a DS1. Go on, keep talking. Keep talking.
I just recently... Thank you. I just recently bought it, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. I have to admit that... Yes, awesome. I have to admit that it's not very well... the hardware is not made very well.
Right.
But we knew that, and using synths for my guitar, you know, being a software guy and stuff, I just record my guitar over this one and add certain synthesizers to layer the guitar sound, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's what I do. But I primarily just wanted to piss you off with it.
That's right. What I'll do, can you remind me, after we talk to Vince, I'm going to jump in before you, Grim, if that's cool. I want to tell you about the Ministry track that I remixed, and I saw their stems. I saw them naked. I saw up their skirt. And they don't wear undies. I saw everything about their Ministry, and it was Stigmata. So I want to talk about Stigmata and what they use for guitars. Secondly, I'm getting to you, Vince. Behringer sorry. They because Alex, we were talking about dropping levels, and they do have an 8-in-1 DI 1-rack unit, which you can get really cheap, and they're actually quite good because not only can you drop stuff 30 dB, you can gain stuff up 30 dB. So you can come out of a synth, stick it in this thing, pad it down 30 dB, stick that into a guitar pedal, pull it out of the guitar pedal, go into another channel, bring it back up 30 dB. Because the problem you've got with a lot of analog old school guitar pedals is their output is minus 20 dB as well. I'm going to shut up now, and Vince, we're going to geek out.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure, but I think Ernie Ball makes a distortion pedal that is it's like a wah pedal but for distortion. So it's controlled by an expression pedal, that all one unit. And Chase Bliss Audio, if you're looking for distortion that would have an expression input, would be your best bet other than that. But I'm not sure if they have a distortion with an expression input. They've got like a lot of combo pedals that do a bunch of different shit. And a lot of those have expression inputs for parts of them, but I don't know if it'll work on both sides. Other than that, actually, on Julius, that Super Fuzz, yeah, I've got one of those and it's fantastic. They're cheap hardware, but if you're just using it in your studio, it's great. Other than that, distortion, you were talking about how you run your signal so that your distortion doesn't. I forgot the words you used, but I know what I'm trying to say, so give me a second. If you put an overdrive after a distortion, it actually smooths it out a little bit if you set your gain levels right on the two pedals. I don't know why. I don't know the science behind it, but I use a fuzz pedal with an overdrive after it, and it ends up sounding a lot like a violin.
Huh.
So, distortion after, or overdrive after distortion gives you more sustain and less grit.
Huh.
But it doesn't take it out entirely, so it balances things out a lot of the time.
Okay. Firstly, I just had a thought that if your stuff's coming out of a synthesizer, one thing you can be doing is contouring that with controller 7 volume. So you're contouring the amount of volume that is going into the distortion, because the louder the incoming signal is, the more the distortion is going to bite into it and fuck shit up. So you can still be, you might have areas of that, like full volume of controller 127 might be making the relationship a little bit unfriendly, but around about 90 might be cool. If you drop that down to a controller 30, as in a 30 volume level coming out of your synth, you get what I'm saying? You can start creating some really interesting things. And you can do the same thing with voltage as well by controlling the amount of volume going into the distortion pedal. Because when it gets too much, the pedal stops being able to do what it can do, to my understanding. Secondly, and I'll get to Stigmata, I've been reading some really interesting things of guitar saying they don't go guitar out, pedal in, pedal out, guitar amp in on the front. They're bringing it in on the returns, and the sound they are getting is radically different. If you research the Little Boss heavy metal distortion unit, the internet's going mad about, because people hate the DS1 and they hate the all of that shitty Boss stuff. I fucking love it. But if you treat it differently, if you plug it into a different input on the back of your amp, you get a completely different sound. Like, you get balls, like metal fucking balls. Researchers, the HM1, have we been using it wrong all along? They talk about the HM1, the DS1, and also the OD one, the orange one, the yellow one, and the, you know what I mean, those fucking beautiful little pieces of shit. Someone was, I pushed in Graham. I'm going to get back to you in a second. So when I was lucky enough to look up the skirt of Ministry, and to see their undies under Stigmata, there's no guitars. They're all fucking synthesizers, and apparently they were all run through like stone pedals. Some were amplified, some were not amplified. Because if you can get your hands on an amp, and you run your synths either through an amp or through a distortion through an amp, it's a different game. You create a different palette of sounds. Julius, do you have an amp? Okay. Excuse me. You start creating different sounds. Like, I'm talking rewrite the book different sounds. Like, totally, wow, that bass sound is screaming at me in sexy talk now. That's all I wanted to talk about as far as Ministry and looking up their skirt. Vance, go.
The Ernie Ball Expression Overdrive pedal. You can find one used for about $70. That's what you want for distortion with expression. It's all one unit.
All right. Excellent. Damn. Thank you. Does anybody else have something they want to throw in? We could change subjects if you want. Vince, sorry. Where is he? There he is. Go, Rob.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of the old Zoom pedals. I know they're mostly digital, but Zoom 506 for the bass guitar has always been a favorite of mine. You know, outside of built-in preamp effects in amps. And I've played with the Zoom G14. It's also pretty inexpensive. That's not too bad for effects, but really my go-to and my best all-rounder, which has expression pedal and MIDI control, parameterization control in real time, is a Digitech GSP 2101. It's got solid state and tube distortion, so you can muck around with those. It's got some amazing presets of all the classic guitarists that you can ever think of. And because I play mostly bass, I like to use filters, even just an EQ, to get the signal right to go into those processes. So you can go from a lead guitar into a bass sound or vice versa using that technique. And the other thing that you can do, which I've been experimenting with lately, is getting this little cheap Joyo Vision, and it's a modulator. So you can have one or two inputs of different signals and have one or two outputs, and you can basically use one signal source to modulate your other signal source, whether it's a synth or a guitar or whatever. And if you combine that with filtering using a standard EQ, you can muck around with that as well. It's all about sound design, right? And making effects on the fly and being able to fuck with it as you go. But that's what I go to. But best recommendation is the Studio Tube. They're still a little bit pricey because they're classic, but it's by far the wildest effects device that I've used for guitar and bass.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you a question after Alex gives me some amazing wisdom. Alex.
Yeah, just quickly for the Zoom pedals. I have heard that it's possible to load algorithms from other Zoom pedals on some other pedals if you use custom firmware you find on the internet. I don't know which units can do what, but I know it's possible. So maybe if you have one of these, you can look for it, and maybe you can expand the possibilities of your pedal with a piece of software.
Yeah, that works for the little G4, but I haven't done it with the old 506.
I'm loving this. And I'll just quickly say, you don't need to buy more gear. Because if, the objective of this exercise is, okay, let's talk about the gear what we have, and you might think it's rubbish, but somebody else is going to come along with a fresh, set of enthusiasm and go, oh, well, what if we try this? So if there are tricks that are not just based on that specific piece of gear, let's go after Alex, or including Alex, either way.
Yeah, just quickly, there's this YouTube channel called Audio Pills, which has a show called Bad Gear, and he reviews gear that's apparently bad, and it's astonishing how good of music he gets out of his bad gear. So it's quite the inspiration.
Cool. Thank you. Grim, you had a distortion pedal in your hand and it's gone now.
I did. I'd almost completely forgot that I had it. So yeah, it's a Digitech. It's a Vocal 300. It's the Mad Purple Bastard, and I'm really stoked to get back into it because it's got a lot of shit on there. And it's got your overdrive and your flanger and chorus and phasers and all kind of wild shit. But it's also got creature features, literal creature sounds that you could like put your voice through. But I mean, it's got good like inputs. It looks like it's got like what could be XLR inputs. So I'd recommend that. I mean, when I was just toying around with it, but again, if it's in the vein of not buying new gear, I love Foley, and I know I bring that up like every third freaking Zoom, but Foley is bad fucking ass, man. Like, just, I mean, you can get stuff just around your house and just, instead of being like, I want that harsh metal noise, or I want something really wild, or I want that boom sound. I mean, shit, you might be able to, drum on Tupperware and metal cups and plasticware, and you could slam your damn cabinets. But if you've got a good mic or a Zoom to record it, you could kick some serious ass, plus putting it through filters and effects. I mean, instead of scouring the internet for hundreds of hours, which I've done because I'm an editor and I hate it, instead of just trying to find, I need a dragon noise, or I need this, you might be able to turn on the fan, and make a noise as it howls through a tube, and you can create all of that badass sound and then just stack and stack and stack. So, Foley, all the way.
And I see your hand, Randall. I'll just go one step further on that, Foley. Hold on. Is setting up tubes and stuff and actually pumping audio through it. Like, if you have an old drain pipe or something, you stick a speaker up, or fuck around with a transducer. Oh, shit. Here we go again. To sit that transducer on stuff to create audio and mic that up. And we're trying to keep straight faces right now. By passing audio through all of these different things, you can create some lovely things. Randall.
Yeah, okay. I've got about using like old gear that's really crappy. I have a old, like, what is it? The Digitech RP like 200 from like 2000 or 2001. Horrible sounding multi-effects pedal on a guitar. But for some reason, when you put a synth through it, it like screams like the devil. It's freaking great. It sucks with a guitar signal though. And about the sounds around the house thing, like the boom tube idea. Get a like you were saying, a piece of tube or whatever, and you can just tape a piece of paper to the back of it, hook a spring to it, hang the spring on your microphone, and like yell into it. It does like this weird shimmery noise thing because the vibration of the springs or whatever. Sort of like a spring reverb, but different, I guess.
Yeah.
But
or
like
you could
all
do
those kind of crazy things.
Yeah. Hell
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Or you could do like a rubber glove on a tube, stretch it out, hit it with a rubber band, and then that plus, yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, just get weird, do some crazy stuff.
And the amount of things that you can do with like a regular inflatable balloon, because it's a resonating sample, you can really, really pull some fantastic things, sounds out of these things.
Get a lot of drum thump out of a balloon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think the coolest thing too, when you're in an atmosphere too, where it doesn't matter if you fuck around. It's not about, I'm gonna look silly if I do this shit. It doesn't matter because it's your house, or it's your shed, or it's your whatever. You can just, go fucking nuts. But the main goal is get that sound, and then you could process it. You can put it in songs and just come up with a lot of really, really cool shit.
And once again, we're hitting the point of allowing yourself to fuck around and allowing yourself to play. Again, this is important. This is coming up a lot. Does anybody else have, think like a child is actually very good advice. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to this, or do you want to jump and go to another question, statement?
Shitty speakers.
Shitty speakers are great. Have I ever given you my fucking spiel on the PV Bandit? PV Bandit is one of the greatest bloody guitar amps ever. Vince, please don't throw up. Because the cool thing about a PV Bandit is, it's just whenever I say PV Bandit to a guitarist, they go, bleh. The PV Bandit, it's got the sound of it is already built for. It's really good for like industrial electronic music, because usually with electronic music you don't want a huge ballsy Marshall sound, because those frequencies are being used by everything else. The PV Bandit's really like high toppy sound. Mic it up so you get a stereo sound. It's sitting right in that range. Right in that range, that sort of mid-high thing where it's going to sit straight through your mix and all of that other madness that's going on. I got a friend who's like the Marshall fucking prince, and he'll put up his quad, and then in the room next door he'll put run the whole thing through a little PV Bandit as well. Little tiny practice amps. So the Marshall is carrying the monster sound, but the PV Bandit has got that high end. And the two work really beautifully together. Do it on synths too. Because a lot of synths lack high end, because the most common filter you use is a low pass filter. So all the high sounds are being pulled out of it. But if you mic that sound through a little PV, if you just run it through a PV, mic it up, it's going to add some shine. There you go. Does anybody else have something exciting? I mean, we can wrap it up. We can wrap it up if you want to. Yeah? All right, everyone's staring at me blankly, so we're going to wrap this thing up. We're going to stay on the line later and talk about crazy shit. Seriously, we're wrapping it up? All right, fair enough. Diana, prep this thing up. We're gonna go on over. Adam's put his hand up.
Yeah, actually, I do have a quick question. I was kind of staying out of the whole pedal conversation because I'm not a guitarist and all, but like, here's my question for you guys real quick. Wrong button. You guys that are using the pedals for guitar on synthesizers and stuff, how are you making the signal conversion on that? Because like the guitars usually are what, like -30, and the keyboard out is going to be what, like a -10, right? Are you using like a direct box or something, or is there just enough control of the gain on the pedal itself that you can gain it down enough or whatever? The reason I'm asking, I have messed around with pedals on turntables, and like Boss pedals and turntable outputs just don't want to work together, that kind of thing. It's like you have to go out from the effects loop on a mixer to get it back in, so it's like, oh, then it's global, so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is my question for you guys, is how are you making that output signal conversion?
Drake, I'm going to go after you. Go.
Okay. Just real quick, not necessary with the plasma pedal. There's no line conversion required. It's actually, it was engineered to work both as a guitar pedal and with synthesizers, so no conversion required.
Thank you. That reminds me of one of my favorite Phil Collins albums, No Conversion Required. So my question back to Boss, thank you. Thank you for getting that. And Boss and fucking Electro Harmonics is, why aren't they making modular synth parts? Why? If think about it, these fucking pedals are costing $50. You can get the nanos and stuff and the Roland, the Korg stuff for $50. New! Why aren't they making modular synth parts? Anyway, in answer to your question, Adam, yes, I sometimes go through a DI box. When it comes out of the modular, I go through a DI box because I have to turn the volume down 50 decibels. When I'm coming out of a synthesizer, most of my synthesizers will allow me to bring the volume down significantly. Then I am working with the noise floor in the synthesizer, but noise floor is increasingly something I don't want to become afraid of. Or I have got a whole bunch of passive volume attenuators in the modular, and they cost cents to make. And I will just turn the volume down a fuckload and drive it into the pedal. As I stated before, the Boss pedals are looking for an input of about 20 dB, and most synthesizers are about 0 dB, or at least mine are. So I got to bring shit down by 20. And most synths will allow you to crank that shit down. But passive works fine. And then this gets into a rave about how important noise is. Noise. It's your friend. And it's always been your friend. And all of those albums from the 80s that you like, that you're trying to replicate and you can't get them right, it's because they have noise in them. Listen to Sweet Dreams. Listen to it it's full of noise. It's just full of fucking noise. Listen to Jean-Michel Jarre. Listen to all of that magical shit. It's the noise of the humming of the synthesizers, of the rooms, of the flanges. Oh my god. And the phases. Alex, go.
Maybe not as relevant to Adam, but I think there's the Doppler module which converts from modular to pedal level. But I'll have to...
A199. Oh no, that's the Thurman. Yeah, there is one.
I think there's one.
Yeah, they've got heaps of attenuators, powered attenuators. But you can actually just run a bunch of resistors in line. You can, for example, get a 1M resistor, wire it into the actual jack itself. So you know every time you plug something into that jack, that end of that jack is going to be 20 decibels lower. Plug that straight into your yeah. And there's a special way you have to wire it up, and it's really like, now we're talking about resistors which cost a cent. So yeah, do that if you want. Do that. I'm not telling you what to do, like your mum or something. Like clean your room, have a bath, get a job, get a cat. Drake, do you want to say anything at this point?
No, I'm good. Yeah, get a cat.
Yes.
Echo that sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah, if you sleep
Let's
well.
talk about listening. Let's talk about listening devices and shitty speakers, Carl.
One of my favorite subjects. Yeah, shitty speakers are really great fun because, like, you can run high stuff into it and you can get the most awful distortion, and then you can just actually get the speaker, pull it the whole box of it apart, put it on a piece of metal. For example, this one that I found on the side of the road the other day, and it looks like someone wrote over it. Man, this is just gritted up. But I'm going to sample the shit out of this, and I'm very excited about it. Get some springs, like springs lying around the house, and hook them up to things and connect them to the speaker. Make a sound, make an instrument. It's the best fun. Then mic that shit up. Randall, go.
All right. Shitty speakers.
Shitty speak or whatever you want.
Well, the shitty speaker thing, reverse wire it and use it as a microphone.
Tell us how to do that for those of us who don't know how to do that.
Okay. Well, what I did, I've got like it's an old computer speaker, a little tiny, like, it's over here somewhere. This like came out of a computer speaker thing. I actually haven't soldered the wires together yet, but you just take your wires, get another, and you can solder them into like a plug, like an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch or whatever. I put it into a 1/4 inch and I can just stick it right into the external audio in on my modular, or plug it into a guitar amp or whatever, yell into the speaker, and it works like a really crappy microphone.
That's awesome. Another really fun thing you can do is stick that to the wall. As we were talking about transducer mics, yeah, it will actually pick up. I'll explain the joke to you when we get offline. It's a good joke. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Oh no, that's it.
You know, go. You're the best. Aaron, I was going to make a joke there, but I decided not to. Aaron, I want you to fill my brain with wisdom.
I was gonna kick in on that. I was wondering how it would sound if you put shitty computer speaker through cardboard tube, metal tube, PVC tube, then put an end capper on it to where it sounds like the club next door, and then eventually you just slide that off and see what kind of badass recording you can get on the other end of that, because that could be a hell of a start of a track, or from the low point in the middle of a track and then builds back in. I think that'd be fucking badass, that, or vocals. But I was also wondering with the shitty speakers, on another note, I think Zug had hit it before where he's saying like battle test your music through all types of speakers to see if you are happy with the sound, because if it sounds good on a little shitty speaker or your car speakers, or you cross-reference it to kind of get a good gauge of where it's at. I think this subject kind of hits twofold.
This is exciting to my pants. I'm just going to jump in before you, Adam, if I may, because now when you talk about that stuff, you're getting into plate reverb territory and also spring reverb territory, that if you're creating enough vibration within something, you record the vibrations. So then you get, you're using one of those crap speakers as a thing to vibrate the metal, the springs, and then another one to record it. You're recording the vibrations as opposed to the tone itself. And this shit is exciting. This is really exciting stuff.
I got the fever, and the only cure is more cowbell.
Thanks. Adam?
So real quick on the subject of using a speaker as a microphone, you don't actually have to reverse the polarity or anything on that. It'll work just fine. We've done this many times. Like, oh shit, there's no microphone in the DJ booth. You know, you're at a club somewhere and there's no fucking microphone, and you want to get on the mic. So we just pop the headphones out, plug it into the microphone jack, and talk into the headphones. It sounds like ass, but it gets the point across. But really all you need to do is wire a jack on it. It doesn't need to be any kind of weird other wiring. Like your plus and minus is just the same as always.
Cool. So I would do this because I can't go online just because my internet connectivity hates me. But if somebody could, not Julius, jump on Amazon or something and look for transducer, passive transducer, or powered transducer, one word, they're quite inexpensive, and they're really, really good fun. Sorry, Julius, when you're never going to live that down, man. I didn't bring this up. It was hack, man. It was grim.
What?
Yeah,
What are you talking about, man?
But it's really. But when you start using these things as a device to alter sound, it gets real fun. It becomes a really, really fun thing to do, and it's so inexpensive that if we look at Drake right now, we can tell he's looking at his screen. Oh, Drake's looking at his screen. Yeah, and they're really cheap and really fun. And the thing about plate reverbs and that sort of stuff, they're using nice things, really well used pieces of stainless steel and blah, blah, blah. We are saying use shit, because then you're going to start getting this rattly, crappy sound, and it becomes a very lovely thing. It becomes a very lovely thing. But one thing you might want to try and do is actually isolate it up off the ground, because when it touches something, the vibrations are going to go into that thing. So hang it up with springs and shit.
Yeah, I could talk about this. This is
please, yes.
This is my background, but it's using piezoelectronics and ultrasonics. My undergraduate degree was in sensors and instrumentation, and piezoelectrics really consider it a ceramic device like a dinner plate, and if you drop that dinner plate, it's going to reverberate at a frequency really loud, especially if you drop it on a ceramic tile floor. It's ear splitting, and that resonant frequency is tuned by the way that they cut and dissect the material. So you'll get different frequencies or different tuned shapes and densities of those piezoelectric materials, and these were used in really cheap crappy earphones back in the 80s. And that's exactly what I used. I sat on my headphones like everyone does when they're fat and lazy, and then you break them, and it's like, oh, there's a piezoelectric element in there. I'm gonna just tape it to the cabinet of my bass, and it picks up all the vibrations. And you can tape it to a glass window, you can tape it to metal, and to Carl's point, you want to pick up those harmonics or those the F1, F2, F3s by allowing that plate to be suspended and not touch anything. So you get a standing wave across that material, and that standing wave will resonate, and the piezoelectric sensor will pick that up as a signal, and then you can filter that signal through different capacitor values, or you can just take it straight into a little amplifier, or you can run it into like a TTL logic timer chip, which will give you, it'll give you a little feed of signals, which can go into your modular system, or, trigger something like you can use that to trigger your side chain or whatever. Yeah, fantastic little devices. I've got tons of them. All different frequencies, all different sizes, different amplification circuits for different reasons. It's really the heart and soul of digital signal processing. That's all I got.
I'm welcoming you to keep talking about this, because this is so cool. Like, this sort of thing is really cool. Like, if you know of a really cool, cost-effective transducer or a piezo transducer, please let's talk about this. I fucking love this shit.
Yeah, they're usually a wafer, and the good thing is the coupling of the wafer. So don't forget that the coupling of the wafer to air is what your headphones do. But if you do a coupling to another similar density or a higher density, like steel or glass, which has a higher density row to the ceramic, because the ceramic's usually created as a grating, that coupling creates its own signal as well. So it's its own characteristics. So when you couple to glass and you drive that, you can turn a glass window into a speaker, or you can turn a glass window into a microphone, and the dimensions of that glass window and the density and the thickness of that glass creates an addition to the transducer itself. It becomes part of the transducer. So the whole idea of a transducer is that you're passing a signal from one density of material to a coupled other density of material. That is what a transducer is. So you can change the second component to whatever you want. Could be the bonnet of a car, or whatever you want to attach it to. But I think you'll recall in the early 90s or late 80s, people were manufacturing speakers, house speakers, from their house windows, and vibrating the shit out of them. And you'll experience that firsthand when you turn up the bass, or play drums at home. You'll be hitting the harmonics of materials in your house, and they'll be reverberating. You can either drive those materials to reverberate, or you can record those reverberations of materials, however you want to do it. So it's all about sound design, and it's also about getting that plate reverb effect, either naturally or unnaturally. And also, if you think about standing waves are the distance between two materials that can either absorb or reflect. If it's highly reflective of a certain frequency, it's because of the finish and the density of that material. And so you can create standing waves to amplify the effect. And if your one wall is actually a sensor, then you can record that reverberation in real time of that standing wave. So it's not just the material itself, it's how you orient those materials in a room as well. That's enough philosophy for today.
Oh wow. Okay, Grim, thank you, Rob. That's so cool. Grim, what you got?
I was thinking of something that kind of ties a lot of these subjects together. So it's like we started with writer's block, and then we started talking about just getting out and doing shit and actually playing and actually, and. So I think if you start getting outside and you start bringing all this things that you want to mess with, all these, if your interest is in Foley, SD cards are cheap and you can record a shitload of audio on it. So it'd be cool just to in the vein of defeating writer's block and trying to get cool sounds and just playing and just having fun, you can get out there and start recording. But you could do stuff like, you know, like you got Stomp on Broadway, or if you've never heard of it, they use commonplace items, and then they just start tearing shit up, and they make so many cool noises. And my favorite version of it was what they called Monster Stomp. So they took metal and chains and hammers and caskets and butcher knives and cutting boards, and they're like racking on the boards, and they're clinging the blades together, and they're dragging and scraping, or they're banging on barrels, or they're sandpaper on barrels, and they came up with the coolest shit ever. But you could just do a jam to where you go outside and just be like, I'm just gonna fuck shit up for an hour, and I'm gonna record because I have an SD card with an absurd amount of room on it, you know. And I think that would yield some really cool results.
And that's a sound safari, and that's the best advice. Thank you very much. I just want to throw a random question out there. This is random because random's where I exist. Does anybody else have a problem with collecting things that have the possibility of making sound? Like, does anybody else, or is it just me? Is it causing trouble in anyone else's marriage, or is it just me? Honey, throw these fans away. You're never going to use it. But baby, these are sounds. You don't get it. It's an instrument waiting to be built. Or is it just me?
No. You find sounds everywhere, right? And I'm a avid lover of rock. You know, kind of hot rods and sports cars, and recording the exhaust notes from those sources are incredible. And I've done the same thing with fast jets at air shows, helicopters, you know, F-35, that sort of thing. Record those sound sources, and it gives you a much broader range of dynamics with a stereo recorder. And what's really cool is when you move the position of that microphone and you get some of the standing waves and reflections of buildings and so forth, and it helps you think, maybe recording monophonically is boring. So you set up plates in a room and create odd standing waveforms and try recording in different locations around the room to create unusual effects. And if you remember, the whole point of the spinning horn going past the microphone was all about that. It was all about creating some new audio effect, which was kind of out of the box and not static. And so you might want to put your microphone on, you know, just swing the cord of the microphone and try to break your microphone and just swing it around and all sorts of weird shit. If it's cheap and nasty, who cares? But yeah, I've got a shed down the yard which is full of steel shit, and every now and then I'll get bored and I'll go in there and I'll just start whacking shit and scratching shit and dropping things accidentally and throw the cat in there and make a mess and rattle chains and set off rabbit traps, and you know, you get all sorts of weirdness happening unexpectedly, and you want to record all of that shit because the smallest snippets that you even don't cut correctly or purposely can be reused in loops and give you something that's phenomenal, and you never expected to find it. You know, that's the cool stuff. I made an entire track out of noises from my daughter's apartment in Miami. I recorded the spring in her dishwasher as you open the dishwasher, close the lid. I recorded the ventilator fan in her lift, in her elevator, and I recorded some iPhone to iPhone Zoom or FaceTime feedback and made an entire track just out of those sounds using a simple app on my phone. I love that shit. It's so fun and creative, and there's no rules, there's no chords. You just create stuff and enjoy yourself. It's all part of sound design.
Thank you, Rob. That was inspiring. It actually made my heart rate go up. Adam, what you got?
Just a brief thought. When this is going back a ways, Daniel Meyer from How Job was out in Boston. He was on tour. He came and DJ'd at our club, kind of thing. And when I was talking to him, it was right around the time that Polarity came out, and we were listening to it before that.
What year was this?
Early 2000s.
Great fucking period of EBM.
Yeah. So yeah, it was the Polarity record, and it was just about to come out, and we were listening to it kind of like a pre-listen, you know, like, hey, check out my new record thing, right? And so we're listening to the thing, and there's this crazy, like, you know, rushing, whooshing sound that he does kind of thing. It's like this great noise effect. And he goes, that was my toilet flushing.
Thank you. Just really quickly, Polarity is an album you need to listen to. And actually, he did 2 or 3 around that period. This is when EBM didn't suck. Oh, fuck, I'm sorry. Did I just say that? What he was doing in that period, and there was a bunch of artists who were doing the most wonderful music. Just stunning shit. How's your late 90s, early 2000s? Alex, go.
I have almost the opposite problem. I have this water bottle I wanted to sample the whole time when it's full, but I always drank it, so I had to buy a new one. But I didn't sample that, so I had to buy a new one. And I've been like 10 water bottles by this point.
Thank you. That's insane. I think Rob's trolling us. I'm not sure. That's brilliant. Julius, I'm sorry, Eric, go.
I just wanted to throw something in there, Carl, what you were saying with sound safaris and just in general. My wife is a fellow artist as well, so she gets
What's her discipline?
She's a graphic designer, is what she has a degree in, but she's a tattoo artist. She just actually retired. She's done all my work.
Wow.
But she also does cross stitching and
she's a hooker.
She is. I wish she was here to hear that right now. She'd crack up. But yeah, same thing. So she also does painting and a lot of visual stuff. But so we just bounce off each other, which is a huge help to me sometimes. She's actually the one that pushes me when we're talking about writer's block too, and she's like, you're good, just go do it. And I'm like, I suck. But yeah, so our crazy go back and forth. So fortunately, it's my crazy.
All right. By the way, congrats on that track. And that track is on the, I'm going to pimp this again. The song I was so impressed. That was really good. And that song, and I don't remember what the hell it was called. The use of samples were, loved it. And that's on the, on our Art of Rock thing, on our Art of Rock compilation. So go and listen to it. It is really, really good, man. I love that. Yeah, well,
thank you much.
Yeah, it was great. Raphael's a dancer, and she's also a choreographer, and the mother-in-law, Annetta, is a painter. So I have a lot of really good conversations with Annetta about the process of creating art, and it's lovely. I'll shut up now. Thanks for that, man.
Thank you.
Grim?
Hey, so yeah, I was going to circle back to the writer's block deal. This is literally like a real-time example. I've written on note cards, and then instead of being like, fuck, I didn't like that, or I don't like the structure, or let me redo it, and I'll do a few drafts, and then I'm just going to rewrite it or retype it. And instead of getting away from what I really want to do, which is like just be creative, I've literally chopped and stapled shit back together. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but it's just, it's kind of a cool way to be like, and like I said, instead of just drawing back to a annoying process to where you're having to write it for the second, third, fourth, 15th time, or instead of typing to where you feel like detached, you can just say, fuck it, I got a stapler, and I'm just gonna put it together the way I want, and then I got something cool to hang on to. That's where a lot of my process kind of goes. But again, I think it circles back to the idea of just having fun. I mean, nobody tells me that I can't fucking do something. I'll just do it, you know? Or I've had people in the past that are like, well, why don't you just retype it? It'd be more clean and organized. Because fuck that. I don't want to be clean. I don't want to be organized. I want a binder full of ransom notes that I can actually come back to and actually stands out. And I go, oh yeah, I was gonna do a thing with that. That looks really cool.
'Cause you
It'll
can
grab your fucking attention.
Because you can sell that as a Kickstarter perk as well. Because shit like that's really fucking cool. Rob, more of your brilliance, go.
What would be even more impressive, Grim, is if you stapled it to your chest.
That's so metal. Get it?
Hey,
Staplers.
Videotape that shit. I made a comment before about Steven Spielberg. I don't know if you guys realize, but Steven Spielberg was a pretty important sound designer from my perspective, because in Star Wars, a lot of the sounds that you take from granted, he created themselves.
Hold on, don't you mean George Lucas?
Did I get that right? Maybe I got that wrong. George Lucas.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
got that
man.
wrong.
Keep going.
Yeah. So maybe I'm talking up a different tree, but remember the laser sound came from him tapping on a plastic PVC pipe on one of those guide wires on the side of a telegraph pole. And he would tap it and it would go bzzz, and he bzzz, and eventually he made the laser sound where, you know, the white wallies are shooting their little laser guns, and it's all from him tapping on shit. So I might have got the person wrong. The idea was there.
The idea was there. And they continued that throughout, even into the prequels. That a lot of the sounds, for example, the engines of spaceships was a guy with a steel salad bowl and a electric face shaver running the salad bowl, running that over the salad bowl, and shit like that. And it's funny because when you talked about recording the cars, each of the pod racing cars, pod racing vehicles is based on a classic '60s muscle car.
Huh.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and you listen to it, and it's like, yeah, man, that's a da-da-da-da-da. But thank you, Rob. That's, once again, this is more stuff to get out, to allow yourselves to fucking play. I need a play pit. Adam.
There we go. Yeah, on the subject of creative blocks, like following up on what Grim was just saying there, with this, you know, restapling the notes, like rearranging the notes kind of thing, it triggered the thought. One of the things that I ran into when I was working on the Skeleton Closet album was that I couldn't remember some of the lyrics that I had written so many years ago. So I went to my mom's place where I have a big box that is labeled words on flyers, because like it's just the shit that I've scribbled on the back of things. And so as I was going through that stuff, what I found was I would be like, oh, I didn't realize it when I wrote it, but this piece of poem is part of this song, and this piece is actually part of this, and this thing over here is part of the other, because they were worked in pieces. And the other thing that I was thinking is, you know, a lot of you guys were talking about your junk files, right, where you keep your screw around files, right, that kind of your fuck it whatever files. We all have them. I have one too. I was laughing about, but like that's one of those things where like I was working on a totally different track idea, and like somewhere a minute and a half into the track, I kind of changed the thing that I was doing. I went, wow, this part is way cooler than everything else that I did, and it turned into a whole new song. Right, so sometimes those piecemeal files, it's like, oh shit, you know, I've got this over here, and you know, it's like you listen back to it after a couple of years or whatever, a few months even, and you're like, you've totally forgotten it at that point, but then you realize, oh shit, this thing that I wrote yesterday is more of that thing that I wrote previously. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Thank you, man. Grim, go.
Who's got the creepy noise go? Is that your cat, Carl?
That's my fucking cat.
Somebody's
That's
cat.
why I'm about to mute my...
I was just making sure it wasn't my cat. That's what I was like, my cat sounds like that. Shit.
Oh, like a ghost cat.
Oh my god. Grim, let's hear it.
What I was gonna say is, as far as like words of encouragement and stuff, I would think about like shit that you do when you're by yourself, or when you were a kid and you're strumming on a rubber band, or you're rattling a stick on a fence. There's always somebody there to be like, hey, stop that, or hey, that shit's annoying. But like, now that you got to a point where you're making music, why not start doing that shit again? You know what I mean? Because, you know, what might be annoying to somebody else might have been really fun for you and you were digging on it. So especially with the age of phasers and flangers and modulators and all of this stuff that you could channel through, and you could slow it down and you could speed it up, you come up with some really badass shit. But it's just the common household things. But I think it circles back to the idea of carving an hour out to just say fuck it. You know, the phone is on airplane mode, the laptop's over here, I don't give a shit, I'm just gonna grab my little recorder and I'm just gonna go fuck shit up, you know? Because there are times where I'm just driving to work, but I'm thinking about shit while I'm on the way to work, and I'll hit sound record, you know, and I'll just have a blast, you know, just throwing out character voices and stuff for Grimm. So you do a lot of stuff if you just kind of find that pocket of time, or just carve out that hour and just be like, everything else can fuck off because I'm going to solo this one task, you know?
Thank you. Once again, it's okay to play. Rob, just in 1 second, and that's why it's really important, I believe, to you got to timetable yourself, because when you start getting into this depression cycle, you don't know what to do. You can't think. You've got a head full of concrete, and all you want to do is watch YouTube videos about and the new Matrix trailer and fuck everything else. So you've got to make timetables, and you've got to say, I'm going to do this thing, and getting offline is before you do that thing, like you might. I'm going to go and spend an hour fucking around with sounds from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. At 3:30, go for a walk. Get out of the house and go for a walk, and then come back fresh. Rob, you win the award today for awesome input. Rob, thank you so much. What you got now? No.
I want to see Grimm's Flanger, for starters. I was going to say something really intelligent, and it always escapes me. I only end up saying stupid shit. But what I was going to say is, Randall or Drake mentioned earlier in today's program that they're not very good at writing lyrics. And what's really interesting to me, which I've never really kind of understood, is that some of the most bestest, goodest, awesomest music tracks on the planet had totally meaningless lyrics. And I love that shit. I don't know how it comes about, but people say the weirdest shit in their songs, and people love it because it's meaningless. And I don't know how they create it, they just do. Is there any magic to doing that shit? Do people have a word randomizer thesaurus computer app or something like that? How do people do that?
Julius, give us the answer to that.
I'm trying. I think simplicity allows the listener to have more room for expectation. You know, and that might be the reason for these songs to be so popular. Just an approach.
Awesome. Drake, what you got?
Yeah, in writing my own lyrics, this is sort of more of a philosophy. I've adopted this extracting myself from the lyrics, so I don't speak the word I. For example, I've changed everything to a we, or this kind of thing, to kind of make the experience more inclusive to the listener. I don't know if that does anything, but I think it's good for my mental health to extract myself and my ego from writing the music. And personally, I like writing lyrical content that is not always specific. So in a sense, it's more artistic that way, and it becomes more about how the listener interprets the music. And so, therefore becoming more personal for them. And then other times, I break that, but I kind of like that approach myself personally.
Cool. Thank you. Randall.
Yeah, that was me that said I suck at lyrics. And the reason I suck at lyrics is because I don't like doing pointless lyrics. Like, I have a bunch of... So, coming up with a vocal melody, I will do random, like, nonsense BS lyrics. But I don't want my song to be random nonsense BS. And that's the problem. Making that into something that actually works is my problem. But I'm getting better at it, so whatever. There's a record coming actually. So
Good. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sea of hands. Alex?
Yeah, what Drake said also helped me really a lot, like deflecting from I to you, because I don't want to write songs about how I feel bad, so I write how you feel bad and how you should change your life. And I don't feel as whiny, and it really helps come over that. Also, I really was inspired by Laurie Anderson's Oh Superman, because it was like a string of consciousness. And then I will encourage myself to write this way myself. And I realized, even if I didn't plan for a topic or so, if I look back at what I have written, it's still, there's a red string through it, a red line. And it all makes sense if I reflect on it. So I think just writing down and then reassembling is really good. And also not caring about what is the original lyrics, but just writing.
Brilliant. Thank you. Adam?
So my take on the lyric writing thing, like I listen to what's in my head, and I'm gonna say this too, like there's no wrong way to write lyrics. Like, what Carl said about there being a lot of nonsense lyrics is really, really true. Interestingly enough, though, some of the part of the thing that makes nonsense lyrics so good is that it leaves it very open to the listener's interpretation, right? And one of the things that I want to note about lyrics is that what you're really trying to do is connect to a listener and create a mental imagery for them, or tell a story in the lyric. So the way that I approach things, like they tend to be, my personal stories. Sometimes it's literally pieces of conversation, like something somebody said. We were talking before about, like, being pissed off at people at work. Sometimes it's that thing that somebody said that hurt you, and it becomes a very poignant line in your song when you chew it up and twist it around and spit it back out into something that rhymes with the line next to it, which is something that you think about that. So one of the Aussie just popped up there. Rob just popped up with do lyrics sell better than melody? And I think that's a really good question, because like the fact of the matter is it's the melody that's going to stick in your head, and then the words come after. So like, if you think about how many songs that you think you know the lyrics to, and then you go and Google it and you're like, shit, I've been singing that wrong this whole time. You think about all the great misheard lyric quotes, excuse me while I kiss this guy. It does not matter what the actual words are if the melody is compelling enough. Like, what people whistle along with is the piece that sticks in their brain. If you have a piece like I think Blue Monday is a great example. Blue Monday is a song that basically it doesn't really have a chorus. There's the name of the song is never mentioned in the song. The lyrics are like really weird, but it's like it's telling you a story, but it's really cryptic, and it's like all it's really doing is kind of like, actually this is the thing about Blue Monday. Almost every line in Blue Monday would make a great novel opening. Right? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I thought I told you to leave me while I walked down to the beach. Right? How does it feel when your heart grows cold? That's something that you would like actually say to somebody if you could fucking say that to people, right? Like what Carl was saying before, say the things that you can't say. Right? But like every if you think about the opening lines of every great novel, what they're doing is they're setting a mental image of a time and place. They're putting you into that time and place, and I think that you have to do that in your lyric writing if you want it to be meaningful. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about your guns, bitches, and blings kind of writing, which is just the large up kind of writing, like look at me, I'm fucking awesome kind of stuff. I'm talking about the art of lyrics. It's poetry that you're putting to melody. do lyrics sell better than melody? I think the melody is the thing that sells the lyrics.
Thank you. Eric.
I agree with that. 100% melody, I think, is more important than lyrics. But with that being said, every lyricist, poet, writer has their own style and their own methods, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Some people are more abstract and some people are more to the point. Two examples I was just thinking of, and two of my idols are Aesop Rock and Tom Waits, and their lyrical styles, and I mean music's different too, but their lyrical styles are completely the opposite. Whereas Tom Waits is like, you hear a song and you're just like, man, you're crying at the end of that, because everyone's like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. And you hear Aesop Rock, and I mean, that he's just a lyrical genius. You'll hear any of his songs, like he has points to everything, and sometimes you're just like, you'll listen to it and you're just like, what the fuck did he just say? Like, I just heard 48 bars and I have no idea what he's talking about, but it's a specific point in his life that he wrote about, like within an hour, and it's just like, holy crap. But anyway, with that being said, my method of how I do it, Rob, is I usually write all my beats first, or my music first, and I'll hear melodies in my head, and thank you. The bug eyes definitely tell me you're paying attention. I usually, funny enough, I usually scat over my stuff first, or I'll get like a melody, or I'll hear like, this is how I'm doing it. I'll grab the microphone, no effects, no nothing, and I will also just sing into it, freestyle singing, or rapping, or whatever I'm doing to go with the song. I'll just freestyle into it. Nonsensical words coming out, like shit doesn't even make sense. But I'll get it down and I'll record it so I can come back later and I'll hear my melodies and I hear stuff and I really like it, and I'll start writing. I'll mute the lyric, I'll mute the vocals that are in there, and just start writing what comes out. And I never nail it in the first try. I love writing, and it's actually one of my favorite things I do. So it takes me a bit to get there, and some of my songs are more abstract than others, and it all depends on my mood and what I'm writing about and how much I want the listener to know what I'm writing about. So it's always different, but the method of me getting there is always scat, freestyle, change lyrics. My song Synthesizer just put out now, the chorus and that, I think I've changed 20 times until I finally nailed it. But the melody was there from day one. I knew exactly how I wanted to do it, which goes back to saying I believe melody is more important. Like, you get that melody, you get it, and then you write the lyrics later and bang it out to how much you're satisfied.
Awesome. Thank you. Grim, shoot.
I think the video for NXS tips comes to mind, at least for me, and I think it'd be a cool writing process. The track name escapes me. It's where he's literally holding up poster boards, and he's holding up words, and he throws it, and he holds up another.
Yeah, have sex with Kate.
So I think if you did that, that could be cool as shit for an approach to writing lyrics, because you could write apathy, empathy, great divide, or connection, and you could do all of these different monikers or 2-word phrases and throw them out on the ground, throw them in a fishbowl, whatever, and you might draw them up, and then that could help you bridge those two ideas, because then those could turn into your lyrics where, a line ends with apathy, and then the third line ends with empathy, or you could plug in the middle to where it says, what's the difference between apathy and empathy? You know what I mean? So I think that'd be kind of a cool approach, just to help get over those hurdles if people got writer's block. Because you have all these fucking cool ideas, but I think you're torturing yourself, just like I've said before, trying to go A to Z and trying to make that all work. When you could have a bunch of really brilliant ideas, but write them down as you go and then just shuffle them up.
I love it. Just before I do, Rob, Vince, thanks as well for your track that you contributed to the Art of Rock thing. It's bloody great, mate. Rob, what you got?
I've got another perplexing statement that I discussed with my son philosophically in the car the other driving to a takeout food place. It was, you know, if I look at some of the most influential music that I've enjoyed in my life, something like Shine On You Crazy Diamond from Pink Floyd is musically an emotional journey, and the lyrics are right at the end. And that's at a polar opposite to what my son was listening to in the car the other night, which was a monotonic rapper to a drum beat. And that's all he does. He sings like this, and there's no other change and no variation. And I don't remember any of the names of his songs, but if he plays one, I'll remember it. I don't know the words, the lyrics. All there is a drum beat. And what's weird is that this guy who sings monotonically has sold the most albums on the planet as a single male artist. And he's streamed over 50 or 70 billion streams, the most on the planet. And that's Drake. And that perplexed me immensely. I mean, I said, look, James, I can't tell you any songs that Drake has written or played because they're not memorable for me, because there is no melody, there is no musical talent from my point of view, but the lyrics that he sings are amazing. The lyrics connect with the humans, and it's kind of like taking it up a step. If you listen to Eminem, he has musical melodic talent and humor and sarcasm in his lyrics, and I enjoy Eminem also, but I see more talent in Eminem in the way that he approaches music almost comically, but Drake kills them all. The only one that comes close to Drake was the Beatles as a male band, and you listen to the Beatles, and all of the Beatles songs that you remember are all about stories that they sing you with a basic rock beat. There's not much more to it. The melody for Beatles music is quite simplistic, and again, that vexes me, especially Drake, because it blows my mind that he is like the god of the pop music industry, even though he's not technically pop.
Fascinating. I'm thinking about we're going to wrap this up shortly, but first I'm going to throw it to you guys, Eric.
Just one real quick too, and it is, but mainstream audiences like simpler stuff, dumber, if you want to call it that. Jay-Z is a prime example of that when he uses lyric on the Black Album. You know, I remember exactly right now, but I dumbed down my audience. I dumbed down so my audience so I could double my dollars. I forget exactly what he says on that, but it's exact, and he's 100% was telling the truth that like he used to write more intelligently, differently, and he's gone back, but like he started just writing quote unquote dumber, and other people have done that just so mainstream audiences like that more. Easier to understand, I don't know.
Yeah, dumbing it down is something I've never done, but yeah, like you said,
I haven't either. But
want to double your dollars. I saw your hand before.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know many Drake tracks, but I think Hot Blink was really, at least for me, memorable because it had like a whole atmosphere. I'm not so keen on like trap beats, and so I hope that trend goes away as soon as possible. But I think the little I know of Drake is quite moody. I don't know. It may not have many melodies, but it still has a vibe.
Yeah, I think it's that emotion through the lyrics that grabs people, and I get it. I mean, I have friends who are totally embedded in the rap industry, and that's all they talk about is how to make that feeling drive home. It's all about the feeling the music delivers, and whether it's lyrics or beat or whatever, that seems to be the prominent bias, is the grit of the feeling that you're portraying through that music.
Yeah, maybe something also to add. I sometimes feel like some of these like very samey artists are like more the song is the delivery for the aesthetic in that way, because you have like the same trap beat but I don't know, some dress up as clones, some are more goth visually, some are like high fashion. I think at this point, it's in this moment in time, it's just a vehicle for a style, and so it's like the bread. The style is like the spread on the bread. I think that's just a current time phenomenon.
Maybe. But what I will say is that it's been bloody awesome this week, and I thank you alls. I'm just pulling it because it's time. We're going to zoom on over to, remember this time next week, in fact, I'll even put it in the thing, and we're all going to fucking jump in here because it's bloody awesome. This time next week, we're going to be here again. Boom! Go get some. And if you're bored, thank you very much, Mr. Computer. If you're bored, remember to check out Angelspit's new single, because it's freaking amazing, I think. And also, damn tracks from a whole bunch of damn amazing humans. Go get that shit. Go listen to that shit on Spotify now because it's free. And what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom on over. We're going to raid on over to MTV TV. And then in an hour, actually 45 minutes, Space Couch. So let's go to MTV TV. That's not scary at all, Rob. I liked it a lot. You guys rock. You bloody rock. Thank you for this. Has been a really excellent session. So and everybody just hang around because we're going to chat off camera. Bye. You rock. See you next week. You rock. Bye. Bye. Bye.